Tell me if this sounds familiar. You've got a folder full of riffs, a dozen half-completed projects, and somehow not a single finished song. If you're a bedroom guitarist, chances are you're amazing at starting ideas, but terrible at finishing them. And it's not because you're lazy, it's not even because your ideas aren't good, it's because no one ever showed you how to turn small parts into complete songs. So let's talk about why that happens and a method to help break the cycle. Most guitarists write songs like this. You start noodling around, you find a cool riff, you track it, maybe add a second guitar or bass, and then you hit a wall. You want to move on, but you don't know where to go next, and you've spent the last hour or so building up one 8-bar loop. Instead of falling into this trap where you deplete all your creativity on one small part, try writing a skeleton for your entire song first. This would be the basic foundation of your track. It can be as simple as you like, even if it's just verse, chorus, bridge with power chords the whole way through. If you get at least 1 or 2 ideas down for each section of your song, it gives you something to work on next, and you can bounce around section by section if you ever get stuck on one part. This helps eliminate the problem of where do I take this next, because you already have the bones of the following section down, and you can instead focus on building out every part instead of one single 8-bar loop. Let me show you how this works. This is a project I worked on for someone a while ago. The basic setup we had was that they'd give me a brief description of the song they had in mind, along with a few reference tracks by other bands. Then from those notes alone, I'd write a song for them. The way I approached this was to use the skeleton method to build out the song. If you focus on the tracks coloured in grey, they were my initial scratch ideas that I used to build out the entire arrangement. You'll see that it's very basic. Most sections only have 1 or 2 tracks each, usually made up of a chord progression, melody, or both. I'll play a few of these sections, then I'll go through some ideas I used to build them out. As you can hear, it's really very simple. During the verses, I started with these 2 main guitar parts, one outlining a chord progression using an arpeggio, and one par muted track that further helped to highlight the harmony. Along with this, there's an ambient guitar playing a simple, single-note melody, following along with the progression. This then transitions into the chorus, which is made up of this high-gain rhythm guitar, along with the lead guitar that comes in during the second half. Most of the track is just these parts repeated until the bridge, which moves away from the structure before things return for the final chorus. Once I had this skeleton in place, all I had to do was work on the arrangement, meaning how I was going to layer and build out one section into the next. I'll mute these scratch tracks for now and instead focus on the final arrangement. For the verse, I didn't actually change anything. I simply retracked each clean guitar, making sure my timing and performance were as good as I could get them. The only new elements here are the bass, drums and percussion. To keep this video succinct, I won't go into how I create my drum tracks, but if you'd like a full breakdown, click the card above to see my video on programming drums. The bass mostly provides the low end by outlining the root notes. Once you add bass, I often find the track really comes together, rather than when it's just drums and guitars. I'll often choose between a more melodic, busy bass line or something simple that focuses on outlining the root notes. Here, it's very much the latter. However, I wanted to focus on creating a rhythm that wasn't just quarter or eighth notes. Instead, I chose to play around the kick accents and avoid the snare, which adds a nice bounce to the overall groove. I'll play this part first without any gaps and then with, so you can hear what I mean. That's really it for this section. As you heard previously, I'd already written these guitar scratches at the end of the verse to help transition into the chorus. To further highlight that shift, I played the same accents on the snare and bass, making the move from clean to heavy a bit more seamless. The chorus, on the other hand, has a little more going on arrangement-wise, but again, it all starts from that same skeleton. Originally, all I had for this section was that lone rhythm guitar part. To bulk this out, I took that same part and triple tracked it. All that means is that you play the part 3 separate times, giving you a left, right and centre guitar. Why would you want to do this? It's similar to the more common double tracking method, but it enhances both your stereo and mono mixers. If you hard pan rhythm guitars, you might notice they tend to disappear when your mix is summed to mono, so having that additional centre track helps with mono compatibility. As for the stereo mix, it helps to create a nice wide wall of guitars. Sometimes the center track can obscure other elements in that space, like vocals or lead guitar, but as with everything in music, it's a trade-off depending on the sound you're after. You can always level and EQ things to make space for more important elements sitting in the center of your mix. As for the lead part that comes in during the second half of the chorus, all I did was double track it. Most of my approach to layering depends on what the part is doing. In this case, it's not meant to be the main focal point, just a shimmery, melodic idea floating on top of the chords. I felt like doubling it and panning things out would best suit the role it needed to play. Just like in the verse, the only other elements added here were the drums and bass. The drums follow a pretty common structure I like to use, where they start out with a half-time feel and then switch to a regular time in the second half, with the groove now starting on the snare, giving it a more driving feel. The bass, meanwhile, mainly plays eighth notes, again outlining the root notes of the rhythm, with a few small melodic fills thrown in for good measure. This is essentially how I use a skeleton to turn small ideas into full tracks. Try to move quickly and don't stress too much about getting the perfect tone, performance, or even the right chords at first. These can all change as your ideas develop. Just get them down in a rough state and keep moving until you've built the bones of a structure. Avoid getting in the habit of stopping after 8 bars or so, as it's easy to get stuck at that point. If you can sketch out a few basic ideas for each section of your song, you'll likely find it much easier to finish those ideas you've been sitting on. To recap where I started and where I ended up, I'll A/B the original version against the final mix. So far you've been hearing the production session, the final mix will just sound a bit more polished. The only difference is a few simple tracking and arrangement techniques that help turn those rough ideas into a finished track. Now that you know how powerful techniques like double tracking can be, you can take this idea one step further by learning these often overlooked tricks to really level up your guitar doubles.